Hello, and welcome to the Total Mental Performance Podcast, the one and only mindset podcast dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs and coaches master their mindset, giving you insider access to industry leaders around their psychology, their campfire stories, and the mindset required to be successful in this business. I'm your host, Kieran O'Neill, mental performance coach and founder of Total Mental Performance, the world's fastest growing specialist mindset service dedicated to the fitness industry. So, without further ado, let's lean in and listen. Yes, team. So today we have got the very special founder of GraphFit, Callum Edwards. GraphFit do all of our design, and I actually wanted to work with these guys. I think it was at Q1 at the beginning of the year, but they were fully booked and they couldn't slot me in. And those that know me, I'm a big branding guy. I love aesthetics. I love telling a story behind color, behind design. So if we look at TMP, you'll see that line that's red and blue. And the red represents protection. So I think insecurity, doubt, fear, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, comparison, imposter, all of those lovely, wonderful mindset blockers. But the blue represents growth, and that's confidence, and that's calm, and that's knowing your self-worth, and knowing that no matter what's going on out in the world, your internal world is solid because your self-worth isn't dictated on external results, whether that's number of clients, transformations, money, or anything like that. So when I communicated that with Callum, he just got it, and he's done a great job on all of our design. And I've really brought him on today because not only is he building a company that's scaling fast, but then also he has a lot of wisdom and knowledge, having worked with some of the top coaches in the industry about the psychology of branding, about the psychology of how to build an aesthetic for your business where clients look at it and it resonates. So Callum, mate, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. It's a bit of a nervous one. I've always wondered when we'll be able to do a podcast, and we've been trying for a good few weeks, if not months now, but we're finally here, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're in. Well, let's start. How did you actually get into design? Because I look at designers and I've worked with lots of different designers across different industries. And for me, I'm always fascinated when you see somebody that has a very crisp style, because it is art. Yes, there's a business behind it and you've built the mechanisms and whatever, but you have a uniqueness about your work that you can tell it's graphic. It's kind of got that quality stamp on it, and you can just sort of sense, yeah, you know what, somebody is really good at what they're doing. So tell me, where does it all start for Callum? Where did you grow up? How did you get into the industry and then into design and go from there?
So I think looking back, first of all, I wouldn't class myself as a naturally creative person. I wouldn't believe that I'm naturally creative. If I put pen to paper, you'll be shocked at how bad of the artwork that I could create using a pen. But it all starts for me for the love of just building things. So when I was a kid, I always wanted to build stuff. It wasn't necessarily creating something visual, something creative. It was just I wanted to build something, whether it be the idea of building a business has always been in the back of my mind. When I was kind of in sport and stuff, it was building a team, it was building them. Everything's always been building something, and I guess that's kind of where the position I'm in now, building my own business. But then obviously the services that we offer ultimately allows other people to build their business, and I think it's kind of a bit of a double whammy for me, and it gives me a lot of self pride and a lot of I guess honor, really. Bit deep to start with, but it honestly it means a lot to me to be able to help people build businesses and build brands and stuff. So that's kind of where it started for me, really. And then the rest, a lot. I just fit a lot of stuff into the past. 5 years of worked with, a lot of people who have been around for a lot longer than me. Less time than me, different walks of life, different countries, different types of businesses, and I think that all comes together to portray and show what you described and the kind of diversity of what we create at GraphFit.
So where did it start? You've always been building stuff. At what point? Because it's never just you make a decision and then you go, right, I'm going to do this and do this and do this, and off you go, and you've built a team and a business like you've built for you guys. So where did it start? At what point did you go, all right, I like building stuff, I'm going to build some visual stuff?
Oh, I think I lost you then.
That's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
So it wouldn't have just been one moment where you went, right, I'm going to go and build Graphic. Because if you look at top performers and if you look at entrepreneurs and coaches that do really well, they almost stumble across their path. For example, I didn't say, well, when I was a kid, I'm going to build TMP and in its current format. I did know I wanted to help people. I've always been somebody that's tried to coach and help. I knew that I wanted to build an organization where everybody loves interacting with us, whether it's our team, whether it's our clients, whether it's all of our partners. Like that's something that's really important. I want everybody to shut the laptop and go, that's a good human being. But that was like a slow process over the years. And I'm always fascinated from high performers is what were the steps and what were the pieces that you sort of started to figure out? And then next thing you're leading Graphic.
So the thing for me, to be completely honest, when it came to leaving schools, sort of the back end of school, I always wanted to be a rugby league player. That was the only thing you ever thought about. Again, it was the kind of team morale and building the team and everything. I love that. And then when it kind of got to the end of school and was getting older and I started getting interested in other things, I realised I wasn't going to be a professional rugby player anytime soon. And to be honest, the first thought was I want to earn money. That was it. I want to earn money. So what can I do to do that? And it was apprenticeships. And I guess at the time, even still now, I think apprenticeships don't get talked about a whole lot in school. It's always college, uni, or none of it really, depending on what school you're in. And for me, I kind of just I must have applied for probably 80 different jobs as I was leaving school, all types of stuff. So technology has always been something that I focused on. So initially it was IT. I remember my stepdad literally drummed into me for years and years. You need to get into IT. That's where the money is. That's where the money is. He didn't know anything about IT, but it was the kind of the thing you need to get into IT, and that's what I started in. So I found myself in an apprenticeship in website development for a small business, a new business that kind of, and I think this was, thinking back now, this was a pivotal point for me. I think that the business that I worked for in my apprenticeship offered two types of services. One was very corporate, so it was web development and marketing and SEO for legal firms. And then on the other side of it, it was website design, budget for small businesses. And I think very early on, at the age of 16, that's kind of straight away I had to be able to divulge the people in front of me of what makes them tick, what makes them work, why are they leaning to that thing, why are they wanting to work with that brand, because we had two services that was built differently, offering the same services or the same makeup of the services to completely different people at completely different price points. And I'd say that's kind of the start for me. And then from there, really, it was a case of it was a small business. I very quickly learned that you had a web developer, you had a web designer, you had a graphic designer, you had a copywriter, you had somebody who did marketing, and I quickly learned that the people that could pick up the most of them services and do them very well earn the most money, and that it was as simple as that. And I thought, that's what I need to do. I need to delve into each one of those things. I need to get very good at them. And kind of, I guess, fast forward into now to Graphic, that's very much what that is. It's being very good at select things and delivering them to the highest quality. And that's kind of where it came from. And then I kind of went to stayed in website development. And the next job then is kind of where I capitalized on marketing and graphic design. So that's kind of where that got added to the mix in more detail. That was a few years on, and then a couple of years after that, I just really wanted to focus on a career. So I was earning brilliant money, but it wasn't necessarily stable. I was getting a little bit older. I had a nice car and everything, but I was kind of getting to the point where them things didn't really matter to me anymore. It was more right, what am I doing? Being a sponge for the last 4 years. Where's that taking me now? And that had to be a career for me. So I then started working for a very kind of forward-thinking young software company in cloud software, local to us, and that's kind of where the marketing came in then. So that was very niche. Again, looking at graphic, once as I explain things, you'll probably, to knowing how we work and what we do, you'll go, oh, that's where he got that from. And it's essentially everything that I've seen in business over the past now 5, 6 years, and that's what Graphic is. And that's where the marketing came into it. That's where the MD of that company really took me under his wing, which I always owe him for that. That's where the business knowledge came in. That's where the marketing knowledge came in. That's where I learned, the financial side of things, the budgeting and stuff. And then from that point, then that was the package that I needed. I believed. All I needed to do then was find the passion. What was I passionate about? What did I want to get into? What all these services that have built up and all this knowledge that I've built up over the past, X amount of years. How do I package that up and deliver that now in a way that I really want to in an industry that I'm passionate for? So the last piece of the puzzle really was one of my friends locally. He'd been doing boot camps, just kind of like military style boot camps, I guess, on a car park. He got in touch, he did him a logo and a few little bits. Kind of knew from school and through rugby and stuff. And then he on that day when we met up at Costa and we was talking about websites and things like that, we then that day went to see a gym that he wanted a unit that he wanted to take on. And from there, that's where I found the fitness side of it. Then I've never been a huge gym goer. I'm not a huge gym goer now, but that's kind of where I realized all of the knowledge and the advice that I could give in terms of marketing, in terms of design, in terms of technology. That's where I then managed to couple that with what does a fitness professional need. And what I quickly noticed was the quality of work that I believed that I could deliver was what you would go and pay big money to, let's say a London agency or a city agency. But the problem is at the time for the fitness industry is these London agencies, these fancy agencies that you see on social media and, they've got all the nice offices and things. They're not necessarily the most approachable. They tend to have the big contracts that they need with the big brands like, BBC and Coca-Cola and things like that. And to be quite frank, they don't care about your inquiry for your, small fitness business that you're starting. And it was about how do I then take all that quality and know what a fitness professional needs, how much is it going to cost them, how do I price it up, and how do I then deliver it? And then that's probably where you get to the start of Graphic then, really.
And, if we look at what you've achieved in such a small amount of time, how big's the team now?
There's 6 of us in total now, which is crazy to think about for me. It's still minute in the grand scheme of things, but I feel like I was just saying to you just before jumping on this, I feel like we've got the right people, we've got quality people, and I feel like we've got the solid foundations that we need now for, the next kind of 12 months, 2 years.
And, it's not like you've built it's not like this is something where you've kind of just got unlucky. You've produced quality work again and again and again. You've built a multi-6-figure business. You've got a team of 6. You've got a culture where people want to be there, and that's something that's really important for us whenever we're looking at partners. Is there a good team? Is there a good environment? And there could be human beings behind that. And it's a testament to taking all of that knowledge and all of that experience through, working in other businesses and packaging it now. And, you've really hit the mark. Where do you think fitness entrepreneurs trip themselves up on fitness professionals when it comes to branding? How do they make mistakes? How does it all go wrong for them?
So the first thing for me is there's a lot of noise in the fitness industry, whether it be branding and graphics noise, or whether it be business coach noise, or whether it be tools noise, or all the different service providers. Because everybody's got such great businesses, there's a lot of noise, and the only people that in the end get overwhelmed by that are the coaches. And what I mean by that is, if you're a coach in the industry now and you're just starting up, you're going to be presented as soon as you create your business account on Instagram, you're going to be presented with a load of people that are saying they can help you increase your sales. You're going to be we're probably going to slap you in the face and say we can build your brand. You're going to get a copywriter that says you need this landing page. You're going to get somebody saying you need ads. You're going to get somebody saying you need to sort your mindset out, and there's all these things that come together, and in the end you get overwhelmed by it. So I'd say the stumbling block for coaches at the moment is being able to kind of see through the noise and plan out, when do I need these things, and do I need them to begin with. don't the old saying, don't run before you can walk, and it's it's a cliche saying, but it's so true. And I think that's the stumbling block. I think the fitness industry is kind of the victim of its own success in some ways, where it's producing that much talent at such a fast rate that it creates overwhelm. It's as simple as that. It creates overwhelm, and I believe that's the stumbling block.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree. And obviously, that's what we deal with is overwhelm and helping coaches basically just slow down. The way that I kind of see the industry from a coaching perspective is the business coaches are where you go to get really amped up. You go and you're like, fucking, let's go. But TMP is where you go to actually slow down and get that different perspective and go, okay, strategically, where are we taking the ship? Because overwhelm is such a big topic, and every single business owner, every single entrepreneur faces that. Every single coach faces that, particularly when you have to deal with clients. You're going into new industries. Maybe you've never coached online before. If you've gone from offline to online, and there's all these different things. So run me through some of your experiences with overwhelm, and can you think of a time when you was really like, whoa, this is a lot?
Yeah, so for me, I guess it kind of links in with what we just discussed then. By the way, by me saying um, you need to see through the noise, I've not perfected it yet. It's the exact same for me. It's not necessarily a fitness industry thing in exact, but it's an entrepreneur thing. It's a business thing, and I've experienced the exact same thing, exact same overwhelm as what some coaches would feel now. I've always been one to, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be the best, and I will spend a lot of time on things being the best, regardless of how much I'm charging for something, or how much we're charging for something now, or who it's for, or how long it's going to last, or it really doesn't matter. It will be the best. And that's just always an attitude of what I've kind of took into everything, really. And that creates overwhelm in itself. So me, for example, starting GraphFit, knowing that there's a huge space for it at the time. There's little gaps been plugged now with different levels of designers and freelancers and all that type of stuff. But at the time, there was nothing like, well, there still isn't in my opinion, but there was nothing really like GraphFit, and that in itself presented an opportunity that I just couldn't get quick enough. It was, I needed to be at this point now. How do I get there? What do I need? And then going back to what I've just mentioned then of everything that's in front of you, everything that you need is hitting you in the face, and you're going, you need that now, you need that now, you need that now. And there simply isn't anything to make you slow down, like you just said. Everything's, you're doing this next. You're always adding stuff. You're never settling. You're never being taught how to maintain. You're always being taught how to add more, add more, add more, do more, do more, do more. And that I've experienced that exact thing, and I even struggle with it now. I don't think it's anything. I think with business and kind of entrepreneurship and everything, everybody will experience it because it's your nature. You quite simply can't build something that is going to be different, and it's going to be one of a kind, and it's going to be exactly what you want if you don't have that drive. But it comes with its downsides, and the downsides are things like not being able to switch off. The old cliche of going all day for 7 days and it takes you 3 days to switch off, that kind of idea. That's the thing that everyone deals with. It's taking over your personal life, and maybe neglecting people around you because you're just always thinking, you're just always on, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? Who do I need to make it happen? This is that idea. I've got that idea. I've just scrolling through Instagram and I've just seen that. It's just a light bulb moment. I need to do something now. And all of that just comes together to make you speed up and speed up and speed up and speed up. And I suppose then going back to the point of there's nothing really other than what you guys are doing now at TMP. There's nothing really to make you stop and be happy and be content with what you've got. It doesn't mean you can't move forward. It just means that you just reflect, and maybe all these ideas that you've got become a little bit clearer, and your time's better spent. But that's probably my personal experience in an overview.
Yes, man. It's something that rush. We got to get it done now. It's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. I always come back to something that one of my first ever mentors taught me, and he spoke about farmer's law. And I'm not perfect. I still get caught up in it. I still start thinking, oh wow. But the thing with farmer's law is, if you think about a farm, you'll pick a patch of land. So you pick the fitness industry for graphic design. That's your bit. You've gone, right. You know what? I'm going to raise graphics. But if we use an example, maybe you're going to raise avocados. Maybe you're going to do wasabi, whatever. Maybe you're going to do corn, whatever your market is. But you can't beat nature, and nature will have its say. And you can plant. You still got to plant the seed. You got to chop up the land. You got to actually water it, and then you've just got to wait. And you just keep maintaining, and you got to go through the boring bits, and you just got to sort of keep nurturing that. And we're always trying to find a way to get a higher yield. How can we get more crops? And how can we speed it up? But sometimes you just need to slow down and recognize that this isn't going to happen overnight, and you do need to stick with it, because there's no point sprinting, burning out, going, this isn't for me, and then throwing it off. It's not how it works. So that farmer's law analogy for me was like, it's just nature. Nature is going to do what it wants to do on its own time period, and that's it. And you can't rush this stuff. And I think when you start to take that strategic view of, okay, you know what, I've got to do my time here. Like, it's going to take me a little bit longer to get that project done. It's going to take me a little bit. Both of us are guys that want to go fast. We want to move. And sometimes I'll chuck you something. It's like, hey, I'm speaking at this event next week. I need this really fast. Can you do it? And you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And that's fun. But you do need to, as a coach, remind yourself that you haven't got to have it all figured out right now. Really, you just need to make sure that you're helping clients, you're getting great results, you love what you do, and then iteratively building systems on top of that. That's kind of how I see things. And then the silver bullet. Yeah. I'm going to ask you. You got something to share?
Yeah, it kind of made me think then, and it's something that I've always said. I've had people in, close to my family that have struggled a little bit with mental health and things like that. And one thing I've always believed in is, these struggles that come along, and we'll call it mental health as I guess, an umbrella. There's a million things within that, obviously, but and I've always just been a believer in, and it links into what you just said then, in this mental health, or when people struggle or whatever it may be, it's not thing that you don't catch it like you catch the flu. It's not something that it's there or it's not. I strongly believe that it's always in everybody. And it's just a case of, if you imagine like on some DJ decks, and you've got like the volume and the bass and everything, you slide it up and down. It's just a case of them things being slid in just slightly different directions than you're used to, and bang, it's there. It's not a case of it not being there and then it is there. And I think that coincides with a lot of stuff, like we just mentioned there. Nature will happen. And I think it's important for people to know that if you're being negatively impacted by things like that, whether it's by business or just in general life, you're not supposed to have it figured out. Nobody's built to be taught from a young age. When you come across this moment, this day where your head just falls off and it spins 360 degrees and you don't know what to do, you're not supposed to know how to deal with that. And that's where the education of it comes in. And that's where I think that's the reason why I think we need more of that in the industry in particular, because fitness industry is just, I've never known an industry like, I've worked in a few different industries, and there's nothing like the fitness industry. How fast paced it is, like I said before, the speed of which talent's popping up. It's a bit of a crazy place to be. So yeah, I completely agree with what you just said there.
And it's fascinating because it is a very different industry. And my background was as an international boxer, which is kind of similar. The athlete, a lot of coaches are athletes, and they end up gravitating towards the fitness industry. And then I spent 5 years selling software in London and across the world. And you kind of, that fast pacedness is there. But what's interesting is that the fitness industry is very aesthetic. It's very, very, very aesthetic. And I think a lot of coaches compare themselves on, what they look like, what other coaches look like, what other coaches' brands look like, what their coaching service looks like. There's a very high visual element, but then there's also a kinesthetic element, which is the coaches are very much in their bodies. They're used to training, they're used to feeling, they're very much in touch with that mind muscle connection. So what I've noticed is coaches aesthetically are very switched on. So they sort of look at, transformations, they look at other coaches, they look at what everybody looks like, what they look like, and then they feel feelings really hard. So when you've got something like Instagram, where it's very, very aesthetic, and then they feel their feelings quite intensely, it's a very unique game. You know, like my ex-girlfriend, she was a actuary, so she used to analyze data um, for like big insurance, so like insuring Arsenal Football Club or insuring the Queen, and she worked on those sorts of projects. But you have to completely disassociate from your emotions and your feelings and your body because you just have to look at the
Mm.
numbers. Whereas in this industry, you're used to feeling, you're used to like lifting a weight or inspiring people and picking them up. So when you've got that massive aesthetic element and then you've got that kinesthetic element that a lot of coaches have, it's quite an interesting concoction. And I'm guessing when they're looking at, you know, their brand, that perfectionism can start to creep in and then nothing looks right. And I'm guessing you deal with that a lot as well.
Yeah, so for me, there's two sides of a brand, or there's two different parts of how you start to plan a brand out, and one of them is the aesthetics, like you just mentioned, and the other one's the emotion of it. And it's such a buzzword to use, emotion, when it comes to brand, because you'll hear all the top kind of the likes of Gary Vee and those type of people, these advisors with the big audience, they'll talk about it all the time, being empathetic and having emotion, but they're honestly the two sides of the coin that you've almost got to kind of use. And the thing that I find with branding and fitness professionals is they have everything in the locker that they need. They have the passion, they have uh, the emotion. Because let's be honest, if coaches struggled with emotion, they wouldn't be dedicating the time and the business and the life to helping other people. That comes from emotion. And the kind of first battle that I tend to come across is making them understand that that emotion also is used in the brand. So that emotion that you feel every day when you're doing your check-ins, the happiness that you feel when you see the progress, the hurt you feel when people, when a result or a journey doesn't quite go to plan, that is what your brand should represent. And on top of that, that's where the visuals and the aesthetics come from. And as soon as you as a coach understand how you transfer that emotion that you feel every day into what you want your brand to look like, what you want it to be, that's when you'll hit the straps with your brand. That's when you'll build a brand that you never really have to rebrand. That's when you build a brand that really, really resonates with the right people, not just anybody, not throwing a blanket over everybody and hoping that somebody will pay, X amount per month for coaching. It's about finding the right people, and all that fits in exactly what you just said then with the emotion.
I think a lot of coaches wrap up their identity in their brand, and it makes sense. You know, if you're a coach, people are buying you, and it's all about your ambition. And if you're looking to be a solo coach and coach a certain amount of clients and get to a certain level, and then you're happy with that, which is really underrated, by the way. Most coaches keep pushing for growth and they don't actually want it, and their nervous systems aren't built for that growth, but they push for it anyway because they feel like they have to, or because everyone else is doing it. There is something
Yeah,
massively underrated in coaches. They recognize the sort of business they want, the clients they want, and being happy. That to me is true success, not
yeah,
just building a
completely agree.
seven-figure business because you can, or because there's insecurity or fear driving that. If you really want one, go and do it. But I think a lot of coaches are in denial about that. But a guy whose brand I really like is Sam Marriott's. Um, Mutual client. You guys have done a great job on his branding, and he loves his Marvel comics. He loves his superhero stuff. He's obviously a lot into NFTs and drinking, and being able to train and live a really good life. And I think you've really encapsulated that identity element. And he's been figuring out his identity this year of us, or last year of us as well. And I think you guys have done a great job at presenting that. If you look at it, you can kind of see the Marvel red, and you can sort of see that element. So when you look at that, you think, and you've done some great graphic, so like design edits. So there's like a graphic that sort of spins around, and it all looks very like superhero style. Like that for me is genius because you've really been able to encapsulate Sam in what he looks like.
Yeah, I think to be honest, you wouldn't be the first time that's mentioned Sam's brand. Every project that we start begins with a project brief, whether it be a consultation or the project brief form that you fill in, and we always ask for brands and aesthetics and things that you like, but also things that you don't like. And you'll be surprised, or in your case, you won't be surprised, how often Sam's brand comes up and how people really kind of connect with it, and almost want to pull apart a little bit a little part from Sam's brand into their own. And Sam's a perfect example because as you've just said, you obviously Sam, you coach Sam as well, but you can pretty much see what type of person Sam is, what type of coach he is, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what you're going to get from him before you spoke to him, and that's because that's what his brand portrays. And there's a reason why, like, we get on so well with Sam and Sophie as well, his girlfriend, and there's a reason for that, and it's because he's not afraid to kind of show who he is, and in that comes the brand and comes the emotion and comes everything else, and you connect with people. And as a coach, if you struggle to connect with people, then quite frankly you're probably in the wrong space.
Yeah, 100%, and it's awesome to see because like I love brands. If anything, I would love one day. I would love to just build brands and just conceptually. I can't do any of the visual stuff. Just conceptually, one of my best mates, Dan Martin, he's going into addiction, and he's launching something called the Cocaine Coach, which we spoke about, which is going to completely change the game for cocaine addiction. Like that, when we were sitting there and coming up with those concepts and those ideas, it's so fun. But I do think you need that
I love
identity. That. So what is it that you're trying to put across? So with TMP, if we think about you see a lot of white in our branding, that's to represent space. Because a lot of coaches feel claustrophobic. They feel like the world's coming in on them. Whereas when you have that big white open space, it's like, okay, I can think. That red to blue is about the protection and the growth. But there's also an element of performance in there. If you look at boxing, you've got a red corner and a blue corner. And often the fight isn't about the other person, it's the fight that we have with ourselves. If we look at the black's very bold, and I believe that we create quite a bold, impactful change very, very quickly. And one of our things is we don't want any coach to ever look at themselves the same after they've worked with TMP. So like encapsulating all of that and picking all those little elements and putting it together, it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah. And that's that's what I said before about building stuff. That I love to build stuff, and I guess looking back now, the process of that was, initially I started by building brands and websites for other people, and then I did the same in the second job, but I was also a little bit more involved in marketing then, so there was a little bit more, I got a bit of a taste of what it feels like to build your own brand while building other people's brands. And then when I went on to the software company, it was purely just building our own brand. We didn't build brands for anyone else. It was just, internal marketing and digital marketing and everything. And I loved it because all I wanted when I was building just other people's brands when I was younger was I wanted to focus on one thing. I wanted to make something that was truly impactful. And then when I did it for so long, I was like, you kind of feel like you just described then about everything closing in. That's how I felt, just working on the same stuff every day. And that's then where I thought, what's the middle ground? Everything I've experienced, what's the middle ground? And the middle ground was building a business that builds other people's businesses. And it sounds really simple now. At the time, I couldn't really figure it out, but we can kind of sit here now and it sounds really simple. And that's kind of what's led to Graphic today, really, I guess.
And it's amazing what you said there about building other people's businesses, because you can build all of the systems, you can build all of it, but there is something to be said about, I know that when you design something for me, like our website, if you go to www.totalmentalperformance.com, you'll see Graphic absolutely smashed it. But it's almost like when there's the visual element, it's like all of a sudden it becomes real. You're like, oh wow, yeah, this is it. Within the app that we've built, we've got the burnout audit, and you guys have done a great job at designing that. So like, I had the idea of a burnout audit. I know it's going to be useful when we've got the content, and then when you see it, you're like, wow, there's a really cool part of what you guys do. It is literally building, which is cool.
I think there's a little nugget in there what you just said, and that is what's the best way to describe it? It's sort of like the idea of giving people what you know they need in terms. Let's use an example. So let's say as a coach now, I know it's raging at the minute, so it'll kind of make sense to people. You will probably be either wanting to have a landing page for your program, let's say, and you may be getting help from a copywriter, and you're using a really good copywriter, or you're writing the copy yourself, whichever way, and you know that copy includes everything. It includes all the pain points. It tells them. Tells you exactly who you should be to take on that program, who you shouldn't be, who you should be, everything. but how do they connect with it? So, you're completely relying on them reading absolutely everything that you've written. These landing pages that you see that are about 15, Word documents long, and it's how you deliver that then. And that's a nugget that I believe in. It's okay, you've got all the facts, you've got all the information, that's brilliant. How's it delivered? Because the delivery really counts. It's, as a coach, it's almost like having the best nutrition plan or workout plan or program in the world, but your delivery of it is atrocious. You're not going to get the same results as if you deliver it well. And the same goes.
It's like the shop window, isn't it? It's like, well, what do you want? Do you want a mannequin face down on the floor with your fucking shit everywhere? Or do you, and it's just cluttered, or do you want to see the shop window and you go, wow, yeah, that's clean, that's crisp,
Yeah.
and that's what you guys...
It's exactly what it is.
Great shop windows. I've got a final question, mate. In fact, I've got two questions. Number one, forget TMP for a minute, but what does the phrase total mental performance mean to you?
God, that's a hard question.
How would you know that you had total mental performance?
For me, it all comes down to consistency, I think. I believe that to have total mental performance, it's to be agile and consistent in how you deal with things. Now, just on that, I don't mean you automatically know how to deal with things. You have to learn how to deal with things and, take advice. But when you get to that point where you believe you've got total mental performance, for me, it's being able to take on challenges, not only negatives, but positives as well. And all while doing that, maintaining a healthy state of mind, being able to overcome bigger challenges, smaller challenges, being able to take the success and, not get ahead of yourself, being able to take the success and be happy with it. To me, that all encompasses total mental performance. It's not something that I believe, skyrockets up for half a year and then completely goes this same distance the other way for the other half of the year. I don't personally class that as total mental performance, because for it to be total, for me, it's got to be complete. That's my take on it. And by no means am I at that. I wouldn't class myself as having total mental performance, which is funny being on this podcast. But I think that's what I guess what I've just described is essentially where I want to be. That's how I believe I want to be. And maybe that might resonate with a few people as well in similar position to me.
Callum Edwards, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Where can our audience find you?
So generally we just do everything through graphic.co on Instagram. We've also got a website, graphic.co as well. We're very friendly people. We have 6 people on messages every day, all day. So if you ever need a chat or any help, just reach out and we'll be happy to assist.
Awesome. Callum, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.